And unfortunately, Dash, I couldn't find any quick videos. There was I depend on doing the gifs and stuff.
There's not
I didn't want to right infringement and get kicked off.
Let me be honest. I'm gonna be absolutely honest. I started watching the kid because of FanDuels.
Oh, there we go.
I was gambling on Indiana. Indiana has won me some money.
There we go.
The funny thing is, every time on Saturdays, I watch some games. I'm jumping around from game to game, and then I'm watching Indiana, obviously, because I have money interest in it. But then I'm stuck on the game because of the quarterback play. This kid, Kurtis Rourke, man, prototypical size, 6'5", 230 pounds. He's been in college for a long time.
There he is.
Yeah, that's him. He's been in college for a long time.
Photo, I gotta say.
Yeah. So
that is not a good photo of him. Seriously, whoever took that photo deserves to be like yelled at for that.
And there's no cheating too. You can't just pull up a video and find them. You actually have to watch these games to see this kid play. But I'll say this though. Now the Big Ten Network, you might be able to switch it if you do Big Ten and do Indiana game. The Big Ten is usually pretty good when it comes to putting up highlights for games and stuff like that. But the thing that jumped off the screen to me is his command of the offense and his anticipation. This guy will throw the ball before the receiver is out of the route, and as soon as the receiver is out of his break, the ball is on him. And it wasn't just one game or two games where this guy was doing it. He was doing it early and often. And you know what's funny? Now that I'm thinking about it and where he's from Canada. He's actually from Canada. Is he the brother of Nathan Rourke?
He is the brother of Nathan Rourke.
I just put that together. Wow. Yeah, okay.
He is the brother of Nathan Rourke, who, of course, obviously spent some time with the Giants this offseason.
He's the bigger little
former
brother.
Jaguar, former Patriot, former a few things, former MVP, I believe, in the CFL. Nathan Rourke was with the BC Lions. Is it? I want to say I don't have that on my notes here off the top of my head because I wasn't talking too much about Nathan, but if I remember correctly, that's where he played.
He was one of the top quarterbacks. Nathan was in the CFL. And I only have a small interest in the CFL because my high school coach actually played for the Calgary. What do they call it? Argonauts, something like that. Stampedes. There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know why I know these things. You can tell I spent way too much time looking at players.
But when anybody listening out there, if you get a chance to watch Indiana play, and guess what, you're going to see them play in the playoffs because right now they're ranked 8th. If they're not higher than that right now, they're going to make that college playoff and they're going to make some noise because they're not. It's not just this quarterback. That team is well coached, offense, defense, very solid. And the last time you saw Indiana perform the way that they're performing right now, Michael Penix was their quarterback.
Oh yes.
So yeah, he's a big part of why these guys are ranked as high as they're ranked. And again, this is his first year there. He played at Ohio since 2019. So he's one of these older guys too. But again, intangibles.
Old.
He's not a first rounder. I don't want anybody to get that impression. He's not a first rounder, but he's one of those guys. Day 3 for sure. Day 3, if you just want somebody that you can develop and actually possibly could turn into something, again, 6'5", 230 pounds, can make all the throws, more athletic than you think, has the thing that you cannot teach any quarterback, and that's anticipation. And again, I'm high on him. Hopefully a lot of people will start watching them. But same thing I said to some other people, I don't want anybody to be surprised when the college playoff happens and say, wow, who's this kid from Indiana? I'm letting you know right now, the kid's pretty good.
Yeah, 6'5", 231 pounds. Like I said, 24 years old, born October 25th, 2000 in Oakville, Ontario. Went to high school at Holy Trinity, played high school football there. Like I said, brother of Nathan Rourke. In 2019 in Miami, as you mentioned, he started there. One game with no stats to speak of. 2020, he was 3 games, 30 of 44, 386 yards and 3 touchdowns. 21, that's when he started getting a little more playing time there. 10 games, 169 of 259, 1,801 yards, 11 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Then comes out his breakout season, which was some positives and one big negative at the end there. 11 games, 69.1 completion percentage, 3,257 yards, 25 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and then tears his ACL at the end of that season there. Ends up being the MAC MVP, MAC Offensive Player of the Year, first team All-MAC. So pretty much all the possible, Mac awards. Basically, he was the Big Mac of the 2022 season there. Right. 2023, 11 games, 63.5 completion percentage, 2,207 yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Now, guys, we're all Giant fans. We all know what is the one thing that happens off an ACL. The next season you come back, you typically are not yourself, and that's exactly what happened there. Second team All-MAC that year, then transfers, like you said, to Miami this year. 9 games so far, 71.8 completion percentage, 2,410 yards, 21 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So that's a pretty nice start to a season for a team that, let's be honest, doesn't really typically do much, and that school is basically known much more for basketball than it ever is for football, And like you said, they will get into the playoffs with college football this year, and that's kind of a thing you wouldn't think most years. And if they don't get in, the ghost of Bobby Knight will be throwing chairs all across the room that you would not believe. As far as the pros and cons, NFL size, strong arm, not a runner, but athletic in the pocket. He's agile enough to move around, kind of like again, Giant podcast, maybe that's why I'm going right to this, but almost like how Eli was at that point. He has a good sense, and he's agile enough to make that step at the right exact time, but he's not going to be the guy to take off and run for 90 yards then fumble.
No, I'm confident enough that he's a little bit more athletic than Eli Manning, but he's not taking it for 60.
No, and he's definitely, and this is coming specifically from people that have watched his career and looked at how he acts in the locker room and post-game conferences and stuff like that. He's gained confidence in himself as his career has progressed. And again, I love seeing positivity year by year. I want to throw out that 1 year because of the injury and to say he was still recovering. And you look at the rest, there's been growth throughout his career. The cons, heavy feet, doesn't move well laterally, lacks aggression at times. And then, of course, there's injury history there beyond just the ACL there. Pro Football Network said Rourke is a bit of a throwback quarterback prospect of the class filled with more natural playmakers who struggled with their operational mechanics and mindset. He's a decent athlete for his size, but is limited to being a downhill runner. Playing more relaxed and free would help Rourke maximize his talent. There's quite a bit of talent sitting on his shoulder, a strong arm, accurate passer who can quickly heat up and pepper defenses with a barrage of damaging throws. By the way, whoever wrote that was
right.
They're on point that day.
I'm
Rourke is at his best when he's correct in making his first read and doesn't have to think post-snap.
That's true. He gets the ball out quick.
Yep. And like I said, I agree with you. I really hadn't watched much of him. I talked a couple of days ago on Twitter, and I'm like, okay, let me get some highlights on this kid. And I watched Indiana. I watched also some going back to Miami of Ohio because, like I said, I love to look at what they did a year or two earlier. I want to see progression. I want to see adjustments. And yeah, he has definitely improved. He is definitely improved.
And again, nothing special. Like we're not. But when I look at what he does, again, the command of the offense, especially now with Indiana, he knows where to go with the ball. Now, it could be he's a one-read guy too, but again, is it the wide receivers getting open, and it's his first read, and he's just tagging them? It could be that too, but I just think he's so quick in anticipation. He knows where the receivers are.
And sometimes when you got a guy playing on a school that necessarily hasn't been the recruiting powerhouse, you got to kind of wonder and go, okay, what receivers does he have? What line does he have? How's the people around him at that point? Because
it's all average over there.
Yeah,
it's just a good coach.
Yeah, if you are a top flight prospect coming out of high school, you're like, you know what? I want to play football, Indiana. Like that's not what happens unless you happen to played high school football in Indiana, and even then, you're like, I need to get out of Indiana.
Yeah.
Like nobody wants to stay there, basically. And every single year, guys, there's this player who's like a late drafted quarterback that's got some potential. We had one we liked back in 23, and I still think, given the right circumstances and time, Tyson Bagent could be somebody decent coming out of Shepherd a couple of years ago there. And it's funny as we record this today. I read an article today about there's people in the locker room in Chicago saying he should be starting over Caleb Williams.
Wow. I like the kid though, and his dad is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we'll have to see. I think seeing him in some bigger games, like you said, towards the end of the season, that's going to be probably the deciding factor on where a lot of people are going to put him.
I mean, it's the Big Ten. There's not too many big games left. You have the championship, but that, like I said, the playoffs when we see some of these teams have to play the SEC possibly, then we'll know for sure.
And especially like you said, he doesn't have a lot of talent around him. So if he's going to win something, it's going to be because he put that team on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And I love seeing that. And that's what got me hyped up on Michael Penix when that first round of playoffs, when he just crushed Texas.
Yeah.
And then obviously he got crushed by Michigan, but who didn't last year,
Yeah.
I love seeing that. And that's one of the things that really gets me going about. That's the two things for me is dealing with adversity and improving and showing up in the big game.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about for me. That's a lot of what makes me like a quarterback there. So, all right, guys.
You got to be a leader. You got to be a leader.
So interesting quarterback class overall. Like I said, not as top heavy, obviously, as last year. And I'll tell you at this point blank, guys, we talked about some players here. We said, day 2 kind of picks. Watch this be like last year. Because there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some, not just reaches. I mean, there's going to be like Stretch Armstrong style reaches like this. I'm telling you, like go-go gadget arms are going to happen.
Mr. Fantastic,
guys. Huh? Like it's going to happen. Okay. Reed Richards is going to be the GM of some team somewhere. I'm telling you right now, like this is the way it works. It is the most important position on the field, bar none. Anybody who tells you otherwise clearly doesn't know football. Point blank. I'm just going to say it like that because there are some teams that literally can build around a quarterback and say, I'm going to build up the defense. He's got this offense. You saw that for how many years with the Patriots? Obviously, Tom Brady's a special, situation there, but you see it sometimes with these kind of situations, and we need that. We need a quarterback, guys. We need a quarterback. I cannot stress that enough. And again, my hope is that they do go ahead and get a veteran quarterback, and they go get a top flight, either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders in this draft. And let him sit for a little bit. But if not, there's some interesting guys that we just talked about there that might not be the worst backup plans in the world, especially if you can go out and trade for a Matt Stafford or something like that. If the Rams decide to, move on from that entirely, which they tried last offseason, they couldn't do it for whatever reason. It's crazy. Most teams want a quarterback. They want to give one away. I know he's a little up there in age, but he still is a good player. He's still a good player. I would take him in a heartbeat personally.
I would too.
So listen, at this point, there's not much I wouldn't take over Daniel Jones. like you could sit there and say, here's a quarterback. What's wrong with him? He doesn't have a single arm. Well, we kind of wish Daniel Jones couldn't have an arm to throw with either. So what the hell? Let's go for it.
We'll take him.
I'm at that point in my life where I was like, I'll take anybody not named Daniel or Jones. Like,
yeah,
it's just where I'm at. So.
If you like that clip, then you will love the full episodes too. Find us on your favorite podcast app and look for us on all your favorite social media platforms.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please subscribe.